All right. Welcome back to another Sophisticated Man podcast. I'm here with another guest who's actually was on my previous podcast. It's been a while since we've done one of these. What's up, Manuel?
Hey man, I'm doing good. Thank you again for inviting me. Like you said, we had
Mm-hmm.
a podcast a few months ago, man. I don't even know when it was.
It was a
Feels
while.
like feels like round about a year, maybe something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But definitely 7, 8 months. So glad to be here again, man. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good, man. I think it's interesting to kind of see the development that we've been through just in the past year and just like the new perspectives that we have, the new ideas we have. We're both in very different places from where we started. So it's interesting to kind of have a recurring or a repeat guest come on um, and just kind of see what's changed since we started. For anybody that maybe didn't check out that first initial podcast, if you want to just briefly kind of explain a little bit of what your core message is, or essentially what it is that you do in this space.
All right. So, hi guys. My name is Manuel Bolla. As you can hopefully see in the video, you should see the names. So,
Hmm.
I am like Tino, a man's coach and author. Not like him, an author. I am a man's coach like him and an author. He's not an author yet, but we'll see where
Almost.
it.
We'll get
Yeah,
there.
we'll see where it goes. Yeah, I am primarily an author. So
Hmm.
Tino definitely has the bigger coaching business than I do because I focus on writing. That's what I enjoy doing the most. So I'm more of a writer than an author, but of course, I do have coaching available as well. I am from Austria, which is why I do have the German accent that you may be hearing. I'm 24 years old. I am Christian, something we'll probably talk about today, and I am
Hmm.
engaged. That is pretty much all you need to know about me for now.
Nice. Engage. I don't remember that last time we talked.
Yeah, perhaps it did happen in the meantime. I'm not sure if I was. Probably not, no, because
Yeah.
the interview was about 7 months, 8 months back,
Right.
and I've been engaged since four.
Oh wow. Okay. Nice, dude. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I remember we had the live streams together. I knew you had a girlfriend. I didn't know you guys were engaged.
Yeah, that happened, leading by example.
Heck yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the funny thing about, and maybe this is how we can maybe start off the podcast. Um, that's the funny thing about a lot of these content creators. Namely, I'm sure you know some people in the red pill space that do talk about this. And again, this I want to preface this by saying like this is not going to be shitting on the red pill constantly. Like I do genuinely think there's good stuff in there, but with that being said, there's a lot of creators that I think they talk some stuff, but they don't necessarily live that life. Like I can think of one in particular who, and if I even say her name, everybody knows who I'm talking about. But she talks a lot about like marriage, femininity, feminism, and all these things. But she doesn't have a husband, or she doesn't have like um. I'll just say her fucking name. Why not? Like people know who I'm talking about. Just pearly things. I don't know if you know who that is.
I do believe I know who it is. Isn't that the ginger, like with the
Yeah,
what is it
yeah,
called? Orange hair.
yeah.
I,
She's
I
a redhead.
hope I hope this doesn't get us censored already because I said ginger.
Man, I hope they don't cancel us for that. But
But yeah, okay, yeah.
yeah.
I don't know anything about her, honestly. I barely watch her
Hmm.
stuff because
Yeah.
that's something good to say because that is something I am highly against. Men
Hmm.
watching women telling them how to be men.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
don't do it, guys. Like
Yeah.
don't do it.
Hmm.
It's pointless, and I know it's like I don't like using the term pick me, but it is pick me. Like I don't
100%.
need a woman telling a man how to be a man because she can't tell a man how to be a man. And it's like
Hmm.
putting yourself into that favorable position, like, oh, I am one of you, to essentially get the fame. That's
Hmm.
how I see it.
Hmm. Yeah, I do agree with you. I always have a very cautious approach when I watch women that are in the men's space talking about these things. I almost have a little bit of reservation even hearing what they say sometimes, because I'm like, all right, well, do you have good intentions? Are you actually doing this for a genuine reason? Or are you just doing this to grow a platform, to get attention? Because that's the reality, is like, if you're a girl in this space, it's very, very easy to have an audience. And that's not like me being sexist. That's just the reality. Like, if you're even mildly attractive woman and you're in this space talking about masculinity, feminism, dynamics, or just self improvement in general, it's very, very easy to garner some type of attention. So the reason I even bring up Pearl is because one of the things that she talks about a ton about is like being a traditional wife, being a good woman, et cetera, et cetera. But come to find out, it's like you ask her if she's married and she's not, or she's not, she's not even in a relationship right now. So that the point I was making is, I think a lot of these creators, not even just in the red pill, just in general, a lot of creators will speak about things that they don't necessarily live in their own life. And again, nobody's perfect, so I don't expect someone to be like 100% aligned. But to sit there and talk about things that you just have almost no idea about personally, I think that's a little hypocritical, and it's kind of, I think it's damaging actually for men to listen to that kind of content, because it's like, yeah, they're telling you these things, but they don't have any real world experience in it. So I'm wondering, for you, like, what do you see? I guess, what's your opinion on that? Do you think it is important for, especially as creators, to have a little bit of that experience to back up what we say?
Absolutely. Like I'll go so far and say if you don't walk the talk, you're a hypocrite.
Hmm.
Like I'm not
Yeah.
saying like in the example of Pearl, okay, perhaps she's not married yet. Being
Hmm.
not married is not the problem. Not
Yeah.
being married over an extended period of time while preaching the importance of marriage, that is the problem.
Right. Right.
You know, we all have phases. I've been single too. I do believe you're single, right? And you too speak
Yep.
on relationships, but it
Hmm.
is over the time frame which makes the difference. Like if you're a content
True.
creator in this niche for 10 years and you speak about how marriage saves society, but then you're unmarried, like who you're trying to fool, you know?
Right. That is a good
So
point.
certainly, and that's why I do like I don't like sharing a lot of my relationship publicly, you know. I do
Hmm.
share a little bit of it simply because I do believe that it's important to show people the way, you know, like I can create content faceless, make some cloud, make some money, and be a completely different person. But I want to be influential, right? I want to
Hmm.
really influence people. And I do this by showing that it works. I'm showing them, okay, look, I'm not doing this just to show them, by the way. I'm doing this because I do believe that this is the way, and I'm showing it. I'm
Hmm.
24. I'm about to get married next year. Most men would be, what the fuck, that's too young, you know, and da da da. No, it's not. And you see, it works.
Hmm.
And that's why I'm also showing this. And I do believe this is absolutely important.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I actually wanted to ask you about that. If, I mean, we don't have to get into too much detail if you don't want to, but I think for guys watching, that's like, that is something that we talk about, is, marriage, as a whole. Just the concept of marriage, is it's even, spoken about in this space. Like, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Men should wait to get married, or getting married young is the way. So, like, in your opinion, since you are a little bit younger and you're about to get married, what what is, I guess, what's your advice for men that maybe a little bit younger, maybe close to your age, close to our age, they're not necessarily ready, or quote unquote ready financially yet to be in that position? um what's your advice to just guys like that?
You want to get there as soon as possible, and you need to accept the fact that you will never be perfect. Like, let's say, okay, you're a young guy, maybe you're starting out. You know, I'm in this position because I've been on my self improvement journey for almost a decade.
Hmm.
You know, so I've been in the space for a very long time. Luckily, I got my heart broken very early, which redirected me very early, which is why I am able financially as well as emotionally and physically to be in a marriage.
Hmm.
And that is something you have to be honest to yourself, especially financially. And again, I'm not saying that you need to earn six figures or anything like that. But if you want to have a traditional marriage, you have to be a traditional husband, which means you need to be able to provide, enable her to stay at home. If you can't do that, then you need to prioritize this.
Hmm.
And that also means to be off the dating market. Because if you're dating without intentions, what are you doing there? As long as you're not ready for marriage, you prepare yourself in order to be ready for it. You work on yourself physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually to lead a marriage. And
Hmm.
once you've developed yourself to the point and you say, okay, now a woman can enter my life comfortably and be in her feminine, then you start dating. You don't waste time dating casually because you want to sleep around, because you need to get off some pressure or whatever you're trying to tell yourself.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about relationships in general, or just, even if it doesn't end up being marriage, or if it ends up being a long-term partnership or whatever the person has, but any dynamic where you want a woman to be feminine and you want to be in the masculine role, the best thing that you can do is self-improvement. I mean, at the end of the day, like, that's what it comes down to. You're creating that safe space, you're creating that safe environment for her to step into your life and feel like, well, I don't have to be the guy, or I don't have to be the woman who takes charge constantly. I don't have to be the girl that makes the plans and makes the decisions, because you already have that taken care of. You're already doing that in your own life. So I do 100% agree. Like, as you improve as a man, as you get better on your journey, and maybe you start businesses, you increase your income, you get a better physique, you increase your network, you just become a better person. You literally are preparing yourself for a long term relationship, because that's essentially what is involved in that. Um, let's talk about marriage a little bit longer too, because I think that's such a it's such a taboo subject in this space, which is so funny because yes, there's negatives to getting, well, I can't even say there's negatives to marriage. There's negatives to divorce, but to marriage, it's like that's a separate thing. I think people view getting married as like, oh, well, you're gonna get divorced. It's the look at the statistics. 80% of people that are married divorced, or is it 60%? 80% of women initiate divorce and all this stuff. And yes, those are true, but I don't know how many that accounts, like, I don't know how those account for marriages that work. Like, what are the ones that work? What do they look like? What are the ones that actually are thriving? What do they look like? Because I mean, I'll speak on my own experience. Both of my parents have been together. They just celebrated their 40th anniversary. So they've been married for forever, and they've been together for a very, very long time. So it does work. It can work. It's just, it's very rare to find nowadays. So I guess in your opinion, like, what should a guy look for in a woman to consider marriage, long-term partnership, or just the fact that she's even that kind of girl to be serious with?
It's a vetting process, that's why we date. Many
Hmm.
guys, I just came to the discovery that people now use dating for something different. Dating for me has always been the process of finding a partner. Now
Hmm.
dating just means sleeping around,
Yeah.
but dating essentially you would refer in my or our community, the traditional marriage community, this would be courting now, but it's
Hmm.
essentially the same. And that's why you do it. You don't date her to sleep with her as fast as possible. You date
Yeah.
her to get to know her, and you'll get to you continue to getting to know her when you're in a relationship. And you do
Hmm.
that by leading her, by taking the lead, by testing her, by testing her integrity, by testing her loyalty. By,
Yep.
if you have a conflict, like, very important, you won't see her real face when things are butterflies and rainbows. You won't see her real face when you're in the honeymoon phase. You see her real
Hmm.
face when you're knee deep in a conflict.
Yep.
If you've been through multiple conflicts, you have a full image of her. If you've never been in a conflict, you have no idea who this person is.
Hmm.
This is why it's so important.
Yeah.
I've probably in my own relationship, Without those conflicts, we would have never been grown so well together.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what guys have to understand, you know. They always ask me, hey, how do you vet a woman? Yeah. Okay, first of all, you need a basic basis of human knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
If you can read people, if you can understand people, you will understand women. If you can understand a person's behavior, you will understand a woman's behavior. Women are not mystical creatures that are above human biology and psychology. So
Mm-hmm.
it is always, and this is why I've always been talking more about psychology and human behavior than female nature by itself, because female nature lies upon human behavior. If
Mm-hmm.
you just work on your people reading skills, on your social intelligence, you will have an idea what type of person that woman is.
Mm-hmm.
And you just use that knowledge. You have a basis of knowledge about human psychology. Read about trauma, read about personality disorders, read about how childhood affects human life in the
Yep.
future.
Mm-hmm.
And I can guarantee you that this will help you so much more than reading guides on female nature. Because you know
Mm-hmm.
then, okay, she's doing this and she's actually doing that because of that. Because you have a
Yep.
basis, okay, she has experienced this in her childhood. The way she's reacting is because she's probably triggered, da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
It also, most of the things go back to our childhood. So this is
Mm-hmm.
the utmost importance.
Yep.
So if you have people reading skills, people skills, social intelligence, you're almost ready for the vetting process. Of course, then you mix in a little bit of sexual dynamics, masculinity, femininity, and that understanding. But the
Mm-hmm.
underlying pillar has to be human biology, human psychology, human behavior, and that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I very much do agree because a lot of the things that you can trace female nature to, the reason she does certain things, I'd say basically 80% of it, 90% of it is from childhood. Like if you have a woman who's very clingy, for example, like my last girlfriend, not to get into, I'm not going to get into crazy detail with that, but my girlfriend recently, when we were together, would be very clingy, and not in like the clingy like psycho way, but she would be very like affectionate, always have to touch me, always have to be around me. And again, I like that, but I'm the kind of person where I do enjoy my space. Like give me some time, give me some alone time, give me some sanity where I can just like be okay by myself. And if you respect that, then I'm all cool. Like I like being affectionate too, but she was like that because of her childhood. You know, her mother was not loving. She didn't treat her properly. She wasn't raised in a good environment. Her mom was actually abusive growing up, so she had a lot of trauma to work through. And I found out that a lot of her behavior and the way that she was, the way she thought, the way that she communicated and the way that she loved was because of that experience. So if you know that stuff, if you know her background and you know who she actually is, then you have a pretty good understanding of who she's going to be. Now people change obviously, but that's the thing about self-improvement. If she doesn't know she has a problem, or she doesn't know that what she's doing isn't, maybe it's not productive, maybe it's not going to lead to any good outcomes, you can't really do too much about it. I think that another big problem that people have in general when they get into relationships, they think, oh well, I'm going to go ahead and they're a club rat, or she's this kind of girl, I'm gonna get with her and I'm gonna change her. She's not gonna do that anymore. Like she's not gonna go to clubs anymore when she's with me, or she's not gonna do that, she's with me. But I just think that that's like you're wasting your time, because if you try to bring a girl who likes to do activities like that, go to the club constantly, drink every weekend, just do nonsense activities like that, I mean, how do you think she's going to be in a relationship? And I think that that's one of the things that a lot of these creators don't mention is like, oh well, she's going to leave you, or she's going to go to the parties without you, she's going to go to girls nights, she's going to do this, she's going to do that. Was she doing that stuff before you? Because if she was, she probably still will, but she never did. She's not that type of girl, and she most likely won't do that anyway. So you have to be very careful where you find these women, because a lot of times their environment is essentially their destiny.
Absolutely. That's actually a funny coincidence that you mentioned this, because I started a different brand, a
Mm,
different company. It's a local company, so it's not too relevant. But you know it, Tino, or probably you know it. I've been a bodybuilder. For you who don't know it, listening to
mm,
this, I've been a bodybuilder, and therefore I'm of course very deep into bodybuilding and still deep into this niche. And I'm still a what is the word now? I'm missing it. Passionate bodybuilder,
mm,
and that's why I founded a new company that is bodybuilding oriented. And I was writing a post, because we do social media there as well. It's German, by the way, so for most of you it's irrelevant. But I was funnily writing a post today on bodybuilding and relationships.
mm,
And I've mentioned the point there because it is, I see it as a problem when you go into gyms. And I've met my fiance there.
mm.
How do you see most women dressed?
Oh
And
yeah.
just that alone, like if she's dressing like that now,
Hmm.
she'll dress like that in the future. Of
Yeah.
course, some women will change because now she's single, then she's in a relationship. And I do believe if a woman truly respects the man, she will stop wearing those things.
Hmm.
Now she's single. Okay, perhaps she's wearing a little bit, I mean, there is a limit, but maybe she's a
Yeah.
little bit wearing more nicer things, more revealing things. Okay, that can be acceptable because she is single. But if all you can see her in are Teveo leggings and making booty videos for Instagram, well, why are you trying your best with her?
Yeah.
She will be like that after you enter a relationship.
Hmm.
And it's using common sense.
Hmm. Yeah, it kind of blows my mind when when people think that you could just completely just change a person and who they are and what their core beliefs are just because you start dating them. Even women do this too. They start dating a guy, maybe he's like the bad boy, the jerk, whatever. So, oh, I'm gonna make him into a good person. No, you're not. You're not gonna change this person because he's with you now or this person's with you now. Like I always use the analogy of a snake. Like if you picked up a venomous snake and it bit you on the arm, you can't be mad at the snake. Like you knew what it was when you picked it up. You knew exactly what you were dealing with. You can't be upset when you deal with the consequences of what you did. So it's the same kind of mindset. And I actually think about, I don't know if you've heard of the Jonah Hill situation that was going on recently.
I don't even know who this is.
Okay, so he's like he's an American actor. Well, actually, I think he's Canadian, but he's made a lot of films in America. Is a very popular actor out here. And one of the things that recently came out was he basically told his, I get at the time he was dating this girl, and he said, "Hey, I don't like you posting pictures like this on Instagram. I don't like you showing, hanging out with friends and going to clubs that I don't approve of, hanging out with random guys that I don't even know, etc." Like setting boundaries. And I guess now that they're broken up, she revealed all these text messages that made him look like a scumbag, and everybody's calling him a misogynist, a control freak, etc. I mean, you know how it goes. And I found that very interesting, and I actually made a video about that because I have a very strong opinion about something like this. Um, at in that situation, like I generally side with the guy because I understand, like, yeah, like that's stuff that why would you want your girlfriend doing that anyway? So any normal guy could view that and say, well, he's in the right. But I actually take it a step further and say he's in the right, but he's also in the wrong. And the reason for that is because if she's doing these things and you've noticed that she's been this way before you started dating her, why would you choose to get committed to her? Like if you knew that she was posting those kind of pictures, she was that kind of way, she was hanging out with a bunch of guys all the time, had these like things that you genuinely had a strong boundary around before, well, why is it an issue now that you're dating her? Why did you decide to get to that point and commit to this girl? So I always blame the guy in that kind of situation because we're the ones that pick. I know that we say like women choose, etc., which they do to a point, but when you really think about like long term commitment, I believe men are the ones that choose when it comes to that. Because like, women are essentially like they choose initially when it comes to like, you could say sexual access or just like that first initial phase, but men make the commitment long term. So if we're committing to these women that don't have the qualities that we're looking for in a wife or a future mother, I mean, that's on us that we chose that girl.
Absolutely. I think honestly, like celebrity relationships are the absolute
Oh,
worst.
the
It's
worst.
it's like this the same for guys, because I sometimes get the questions, hey, should I date, I don't know, a woman with many followers? It's
Yeah.
essentially the same.
Yeah.
It's like those women are used to it, and those
Hmm.
women are going to maintain it. Like celebrity is a woman with many followers, just 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Like it's no wonder, honestly, that so many celebrity relationships fail. It is absolutely no
Hmm.
wonder. If
Yep.
I were a celebrity man, I would no way in earth be in a relationship with another celebrity.
No.
Bro, I'd date the girl out of like, I don't know, somewhere who nobody knows.
Starbucks.
Because that's the most peaceful relationship you're going to have. If you're
Hmm.
dating a famous woman, 99% of the time, it is going to have difficulties.
Yep. Hmm. I agree. You have to celebrity relationships are such a bad example to use for any kind of relationship advice because everybody got problems and everybody has traumas, everybody has issues that you don't necessarily see when they're together because they're always highlights. They show, oh, this person went to Bali with their significant other. They went to Hawaii. They went to this tropical island together. And it looks perfect on screen, on paper, but the reality is, they probably fight every day. Like you have no idea what that looks like behind the scenes. So I always take those stories with like a grain of salt because I understand like being a celebrity and having that kind of life is it's just a different reality than what like I'm gonna say normal people, but what we experience if we're not celebrities. So it's one of those things. Um, I wanted to ask you about something because I know that you have a pretty hard stance on like a guy being. I mean, I actually want to ask you what your thoughts are potentially about that. Um, what's your take on celibacy? I know that that's talked about a lot in more like the religious circles of just self improvement and things like that. I have a pretty interesting take on it, but yeah, I'd love to hear what you think, how that pertains to men and self improvement, and what your take is on it.
I have just recently I had a conversation with a female follower of mine
Hmm.
who had a discussion with her cousins, I believe it were, and she was reaching out to me, and she was asking me if watching porn isn't normal. And for us in this space, right? For us it sounds insane, but if you really think about it, porn has become so normalized and we all know how bad porn actually is.
Yeah.
Now I'm asking you, okay, is celibacy essential? Yes, it is. Why? Because why should porn be normal and celibacy not normal? We're living in
Mm,
times where it has become normal to masturbate daily, to sleep with random women, but it has
yeah.
become strange to retain your seat.
That's true.
An act, the highest act of discipline, is seen as strange. Why is it seen as strange? Because it's easier to shame things than to improve myself. Oh, you're weird
Hmm.
for not sleeping around. You're a cock. You're a beta.
Yeah.
You're weird. You don't fap to porn. Man, I fap to porn every day. It has become like that.
It has.
So honestly, celibacy, if you are a young man, it is absolutely essential. And not just, I'm not going into the religious or spiritual sphere with it right now. I'm not doing anything
Mm,
right. But
hmm.
just think about it. if you're not addicted to porn or sleeping around, why can't you just stop for 3 months?
Legit. Yeah.
I'm not saying, okay, look, you have to retain your semen because it's life force, because it's energy, because you want to be connected to God. Those are all things we could talk about. I'm just telling
Mm-hmm.
you, stop touching your dick for more than 21 days. Oh, I can stop
Yeah.
anytime. Yeah, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Stop sleeping around.
Mm-hmm.
Because essentially, you are dependent on porn and on external validation. If you can't
Mm-hmm.
stop sleeping around for a period, like 3 months is literally nothing.
Yeah.
Most people fail at nofap after 2 to 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So just try it for yourself. Don't fool yourself and say, okay, you can stop anytime. Just do it and prove it
Mm-hmm.
to yourself that you actually can. Because now we can take it a step further. Okay, you can't stop fapping, which means you probably lack the discipline in other areas of your life. You probably eat junk food, you probably smoke, you probably drink, you probably binge watch, you probably watch video games. If you fap to porn, I can guarantee you that there's one thing that I just mentioned that you're struggling with as well.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps we can take it a step further. If you're fap to porn and if you struggle with discipline in other areas of your life, you're feeling like shit. You're feeling bad about yourself because you know you shouldn't be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, nowhere did I go spiritual or religious with this. This is just on the primal level. You
Mm-hmm.
feel like shit because you're touching your dick, because you can't stop sleeping around. This lack of discipline will lead to a lack of discipline in other areas of life. This addiction to dopamine will lead to other forms of dopamine addiction. It is just that it begins here.
Mm-hmm. Mm. That's very, very true and well said. I agree because I think that this is one thing I've noticed. Anytime I've watched porn or done things like just would just jerk off uncontrollably, you really start to, even when you're not doing it, you're thinking about it, and you're thinking about, oh man, I can't wait to go home, watch this scene, or I'm thinking of another girl, like a porn star that comes to mind, or even like the way you view women in normal life. Like I'll be at the gym. Let's say I just did something I shouldn't have done, and I'm at the gym and I'm looking at a girl. The only thing that's running through my mind is, what does she look like naked? And I need to like have sex with her immediately. Like you're literally addicted to that feeling. So it is very, it's a gateway, like you said, to other things, and it's a gateway to negative vices, and you probably lack control in other areas too. That is super super true. Um, I think it's one of those things that if you really practice, just again, just a month, just try 30 days, try a week for fuck's sake, just 1 week, and just start there, and just don't watch porn, don't beat off, don't do anything, and just notice the difference. And honestly, like I'm sure for some people they have better self control, or maybe they feel differently. If you feel nothing, try it for another week. If you feel nothing, then try it for another week. And if you still don't experience anything, well, it just might not be as potent for you, but for some people, it really, really makes a difference. And I'd say the majority of people probably does. Um, but it's more of a lifestyle than anything. I think some people kind of view it as like a fad or a self improvement hack or like some kind of trick. It's not a trick. It's literally just like being disciplined and building like legitimate energy in your life, like positive energy, positive momentum. Because nothing good comes from watching porn, jerking off all the time. You just feel, like you said, you feel like garbage. And it usually leads to, oh, well, I did that. I'm just going to have a couple Doritos. I'm going to eat a piece of cake because I feel like shit. And if you want to feel better, like that dopamine starts seeping into other areas. Um, I definitely, definitely agree with that. What was I going to say about that too? I know some guys too will, to talk about kind of like to the extreme side of things. Some guys will mention, because I'm a very balanced person. I think that you need like I'm not the kind of person to say like never have sex in your entire life. I don't think that's the answer. But I don't think sleeping around constantly is the answer either. So I'm wondering like what is that perfect balance? Because I genuinely think that celibacy is good. Like a man should 100% practice this, even if it's for a short period of time, like a couple months, 6 months, maybe a year, and just see what it does for you. Um, Although I do think like let's say you're attracting a girl and you get a good quality woman, she's classy, she's the kind of girl you want to be with. You guys vibe together, have similar values. I don't necessarily believe in like being abstinent until marriage. I mean, at least that's just my viewpoint. Now I am very like I was actually just talking about this last night. Um I am more of a spiritual, also kind of I guess you could say a religious person too. I have a lot of religious Christian values. But that's the one thing I'm like, well, if I have a girlfriend and we're like, I obviously date for a reason. Like if I call you my girlfriend, that there's a future in it, obviously. So if we're dating and if we're not having sex, I almost view that as like, I view it as like a way to build the relationship further if you're doing that with a partner that you actually like want to be with. So that's my stance on it. I don't know what your views are on like waiting till marriage, et cetera. Because I know that there's a lot of stuff out there like that.
Guys should just ask themselves, because I do understand, like, I'm a Christian. If you ask me, if you come
Hmm.
to me and say, Manu, what would you recommend me I do? I will say wait for
Hmm.
marriage, until
Hmm.
marriage. But I do
Yeah.
understand, like, I'm a Christian. I try to keep my principles
Hmm.
as universal as possible. This is
Hmm.
something, I don't force my religion onto other people. I
Sure.
want people to find God by themselves. If they ask me about
Yeah.
God, I will give them an answer. But I'm not going
Hmm.
to be there with the hammer and hammer it into their heads. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to force a conversion or anything. So
Hmm.
I do understand that not everybody is going to wait until marriage. Should you do that as a Christian? My answer is yes. But even when I wasn't a Christian and not in my red pill phase, I did ask myself, is this woman worth my sexual energy? And now we're getting spiritual.
Hmm.
Because I can tell you guys, I am a man, we're young men. We have a high libido.
Yeah.
And I could have sex 2, 3 times per day. But when I do that, I can feel that I'm extremely drained. You can literally
Yes.
feel that you have less energy. So
100%.
you have to ask yourself, okay, is this woman worth draining my most potent energy? Is
Hmm.
this woman worth making a soul tie with? Is this woman worth making the deepest connective act that you can do?
Hmm.
And when is she worthy of that? When she's relationship or marriage material?
Hmm. It's very true. That's very true because I've done that in the past where I've been with a girl and then like my last girlfriend actually we would like there'd be times where we had sex maybe multiple times like in a day, and then it'd be like the whole weekend we just like did it, and I'm like after the weekend I was just like, oh my god, like I need a break. And it just didn't, I'll be honest, I didn't value it as much. And I think this is something I heard, I think I heard Andrew Tate talking about this recently. He was saying how he doesn't have a steak, well he has a steak every day now, but he said for the average person, like if you don't eat in luxury or something every day, then you value things more. Like when you don't do things or you don't have things always in your life, then you value it. Like if I don't eat filet mignon every day, then I'm gonna crave it. I'm gonna have that feeling like, oh, I actually like eating out. It's a luxury. It's a privilege. And the same thing can be said for sex to a degree. Like if you're always having sex with your partner or whatever, you're always doing it with them, you don't really like look forward to it as much, and you almost kind of view the relationship as just a sexual thing. Like what else do you guys relate on? Is there anything like mental, emotional, spiritual you guys connect on? Like there has to be more to it than just that. um So I definitely agree on that aspect as well. I think you need to like, even when you're in a relationship, I think with a girl that you even view as like the mother of your children, to kind of almost treat sex. I mean, this is just my perspective. This is just my opinion. Is to treat it like a, I don't know how to phrase it or word it. Like space it out a little bit more is what I'm trying to say. Like I mean, you might have periods where hey, you do it for a weekend and you guys get it out of your system and do that. That's fine too. I think it's better though when you do it like periodically. Now I'm not saying like you have to go in your calendar and mark on Friday night we're gonna have sex and this is gonna be great, because then it becomes very robotic and not spontaneous, and that's not really romantic. But I do think that like maybe in your mind thinking, okay, maybe once this week or maybe none this week because I have a big business meeting or I have a project that I'm working on. I can't really do it this week. Like as a man though, I think as a man it comes back to knowing where you're spending a lot of your time and especially your energy, like you mentioned. Where is that going? Is it going into something like having sex, or is it going into building a business? Is it making you more money right now? Is it increasing your intensity in the gym? So I think it comes back to as the guy knowing where's your priority that week, essentially. Like what is your focus?
Absolutely. And this, we can interlink this with a fact about sex, because
Mm-hmm.
sex will release or make your brain release dopamine extremely, right? Eating
Mm-hmm.
food and sex are the two most, like the things that release most dopamine, because it's
Yeah.
necessary for our species survival. And
Mm-hmm.
now just ask yourself, look, I'm living with my fiance. So we could have sex every day, multiple times. And we did that. And I stopped doing it because I've noticed, okay, you will start lacking motivation and
Yes.
energy. You get
Yeah.
those dopamine hits for nothing. You
Mm-hmm.
wake up, you have morning sex, great. Then it's midday, you have sex again. Then it's night, you have sex again. Like, why would you do anything else to get a reward, which is the dopamine, if you can just get it like that? That is why
Mm-hmm.
so many guys stop pursuing things after they get into a relationship, because they
Mm-hmm.
get that reward so easily.
Yeah.
And you will
Mm.
notice it. Like, I can guarantee you that if you have sex so many times, you will start slacking the motivation to do
Mm-hmm.
anything else or to pursue something greater, something higher. Because again, why should I work hard if I can get a better reward for my brain?
Mm-hmm.
Just like that. You know, it's the same with video game addiction, porn addiction. It's all the same basis.
Mm-hmm.
Junk food. Why work hard if I can order pizza, play some video games, and jerk it off? Like my dopamine was like, it's like crack for your brain.
Yeah. Legit. Yeah, it really is. And that's a good point. It's like your reward system gets totally messed up when you're doing things before you even put any kind of work in. Like if you wake up, first thing you do is jerk off or like have sex with your girlfriend or maybe eat some disgusting like food, sugary food, donuts or something, glazed donuts in the morning. You're not going to feel very good later in the day. Like maybe you feel good in the moment, but afterwards you're going to be drowsy, maybe some brain fog. You're not going to feel clear. You're definitely not going to feel sharp. Um, so it's something to think about. Like, is it worth the long term productivity that you might be sacrificing to do something quick and short and pleasurable, even though in the moment it feels good, but is it really worth it in the long term? I think that's a very good point. That's something to think about. Um, I do something that came to mind as you said that is you look at some of the high profile guys that are like the Hugh Hefners of the world and like the Dan Balzerians of the world, and they have like women all around them, and I mean, I'm sure they have sex like constantly or just whenever they want. It's just available to them all the time. I I think that is a very interesting situation where like would you say those guys are productive though when they get to that point? Because I'm sure that they've only I'm sure they got to that point like after the work was done, and then they have access. I don't think like you have sex and sex and sex and just like pleasure, 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 and then you get this crazy empire that you just suddenly built. I don't think it works like that. Um, in that kind of unique situation, what do you think those guys like? Do you think that they're more productive or have any productivity when they're over stimulated or over sexed?
First of all, we have to ask ourselves, okay, do they really have so much sex? Or are they
That's true.
just surrounded by beautiful women? If you take, for
True.
example, Tate,
Hmm.
he said it himself, he doesn't have so much sex anymore.
I heard that. Yeah.
He could pull, like, you can like him or not, but it is a fact that he could almost pull any woman he wants to,
Oh yeah.
simply because he has
Hmm.
such a high social status.
Hmm.
And he says himself, okay, he's not having sex so much anymore. He's a guy who
Hmm.
focuses on work.
Yeah.
Keep everything like those things around him just away for a second. Just
Hmm.
look at him objectively. He could pull almost any woman he wants. He could have sex as often as he wants, any time of day, with 10 different women if he wants to. He
Hmm.
doesn't do it. And on the other side, like if you have guys who work their entire life to get extremely successful, and they just then after they reach that success, perhaps they sacrifice 20 years to get rich, and
Hmm.
they've invested the money so they don't necessarily run out of it, right? Return of investments, they have, they made a lot of money, have invested it, and now have enough passive income to just, drink, party, and have sex. You are going to have men like this, but they are
Hmm.
not productive in that
Yeah.
moment. They have worked to get there, but they're not productive in that moment. And maybe it will lead to them getting broke. There are many people. You can read about many guys who were super rich, who didn't have the right mindset, who wasted it all on hooker you know,
Yeah.
and like, for example, a good example is Mike Tyson.
Mm,
How much did he have? How much is he left with?
that is true.
Of course, he's still a millionaire, but he had
Hmm.
hundreds of millions.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily about what you gain, it's about what you keep. And with that mindset, you're just burning money.
Hmm. Yeah, that reminds me actually of, you might not know this person, but he's an NBA player now, and Zion Williamson. He's like pretty high profile like NBA player now. He's still relatively young, but I heard recently he had a very similar situation where he was dating this like, I don't know if she was an OnlyFans model or some kind of like Instagram model or something, some girl like that. She was like into that type of scene, and he gave her everything. He was like giving her everything. He was like paying for her meals and taking her out and flying her out to different places and cities. And I didn't read it into the entire story, but I think that basically what happened is I think she broke up with him and basically like used him for all this stuff and like used him for all his money and all this stuff. And that's another example too of like you get to this point in life as a guy and this level of status, fame, success, whatever, just to give it all away to some girl that you don't even really know or because you think she's really attractive. You got to be careful with that stuff because not everyone has your best interest in heart. Um, Especially a woman who's kind of like tying back to the point we said earlier, like she's into the fame lifestyle, she's into that kind of stuff, she's into like the Hollywood scene. Um, it can be dangerous, and it's something that guys have to really watch out for. And I think to tie it full circle, I think if you're a guy who is disciplined sexually and like you know how to control yourself, you know how to like be without sex for a while and actually be okay. I think you actually have a better radar for women like that because you can see women for who they truly are without the makeup, without the looks, the beauty. You can say, "Oh, she's actually a genuinely good person and I could see myself with this girl." But if you're constantly like hooking up with random people and jerking off and just getting all of these negative vices, you almost can't even really see the girl. You just see her sexuality. You just see that. You don't really see anything, anything deeper than that.
It's absolutely true. You'll you'll notice when you start to retain, you'll
Hmm.
view women differently. Like
Yeah.
when you watch a lot of porn, when you sleep around a lot,
Hmm.
you're hyper sexualizing them. You're
Yep.
constantly
Yep.
horny and
Yep.
essentially also needy.
Hmm.
You know, you can. I always bring the example of guys turning their heads in the gym. Like pretty much
Yeah.
every normal guy, normal, average guy you
Hmm.
talk to in the gym, he will turn his head at some point because he sees a woman.
Constantly. Yeah.
And essentially, it's giving away your power and your control for
Yep.
just a little bit of ass.
Hmm. Yeah. Not even ass you're getting. Just just ass you're looking at. Not
And
even girls that you
this
actually have.
this then leads to other difficulties because you're so
Hmm.
horny, because you're so hypersexualizing, you're making the
Hmm.
wrong things, you're engaging with the wrong women.
Yep.
You just want to have sex. That's why you go with some crazy borderline chick because you will have the best sex with her. Then you get into a relationship, and then you end up like Brad Pitt and Amber Heard.
Yeah, man. Those celebrities, man, they everything that they do is just like extreme and just completely out there. But that's yeah, that's a very interesting situation too. That thing about the gym is very true. Like I'm in the gym constantly. I mean, you see my post up in there. I'm in there like 4 times, 5 times a week, and I see it every day. I see guys, they get like it's so funny when you see a girl walk into the room who's wearing like some maybe shorts or maybe she's like wearing something nice. Every dude, I don't care how old he is, he could be 50, 60, he could be 16. Every dude just like everywhere she goes. And I'm just I'm just simply focused on lifting because I have my headphones in. I'm like focused on the weights and like whatever. I might look at her briefly, but I'm not like gawking to where I lose focus or I lose like my train of thought. And the funny thing about that is women will notice this. They might not like directly see you doing it, but they feel you. Like if you're not actually giving her that attention right away, something in her female brain is going to feel like this guy didn't look at me yet. I wonder why. What's up about this guy? And the funny thing is what women will do because you're that guy who doesn't look, she'll start looking at you and she'll start actually putting herself next to you. This happens to me so many freaking times. I'll be at the gym and I'm just like, face to face with the mirror. I'm doing curls or I'm doing some workout and I'm literally just focused on the workout. And I have a girl who I didn't even know she was there. She'll walk up right next to me and start doing some like random exercise that isn't
Deadlifts
working
in front of
any.
you.
Yeah, like something that like has nothing to do with that. Like she's doing like squats in front of the dumbbell rack. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this over here? And I'm just like, and you're right next to me. So like I know what you're trying to do. You want me to look at you, you want me to talk to you, whatever. And it's like, you know, if I'm curious about you, if I'm attracted, yeah, I might say hello, but it's not like the first thing that comes to my mind where I'm like, oh my god, like I'm gonna lose my focus right now. But it's just so funny how that works. Is women have like a sixth sense. Is when you're the guy who you have ulterior focus. You have focus on your purpose, or your mission, or other things you're doing in life that are more important than women. Man, they pick up on that stuff and they literally like put themselves around you because they want your attention at that point.
And that is something men have to look out for. Like
Yeah.
because you said it, yeah, a woman is going to put herself into your orbit because
Yep.
she's attracted to you.
Hmm.
Okay, she wants you to approach, or because she simply wants your attention. And this
Yeah.
is, I refer to this as energy leeching.
Yeah.
She wants, like, literally, when you look, you allow her to suck out your energy. You're giving, I say, you give away your power.
Yeah. True.
And like, controlling your gaze is so difficult, it is so hard.
Hmm.
I don't believe it will get easy at some
No.
point. You get better at it, but you know you will always have that impulse.
Mm-hmm.
But you simply need to figure out, okay, is this woman actually worthy of looking at? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm at a point. I mean, I'm engaged anyway, so but still, how many guys are engaged, are married, are in a relationship, but still look? You know,
Yeah.
let's start with this. But even
Mm-hmm.
then, I'm at a point where I'm actually a little bit disgusted by what they are wearing. You know, it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you're wearing a cyan colored Taveo leggings that looks like two potato wedges. Why are you wearing this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's so obvious that she's not doing this because she wants you to approach her, because she's relationship material. She's doing this
Yeah.
because she wants to suck your energy out of you. And this is
Mm-hmm.
something you have to be aware of. Just think, in the
Mm-hmm.
future, if I look, she's sucking out my energy. It's that simple. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, start with awareness, by the way. Most guys aren't even aware of it. They'll
Yeah.
just look, you know, it's almost second nature. Of course it
Mm-hmm.
is in our nature, in our primitive nature. You know, the topic about how men are made to spread their seed, yes, it is ingrained in our biology to look. We're
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to make this sound wrong, but we're like predators. We're always scanning, you know, it's in our
Mm-hmm.
nature.
Oh yeah.
We're the active part, we're the pursuer in sexual selection.
Mm-hmm.
That is why it's ingrained in our biology. But for you guys, just become a little bit aware of how often you actually gaze.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more you become aware, the more you notice, like, bro, I'm almost looking at every woman. You know, it's a
Mm-hmm.
reflex.
Mm-hmm.
So start controlling your gaze, and you'll see how hard it is.
Mm-hmm. It is very hard, and it's something that I mean, I've practiced this for a long time, and there's occasionally times where I'm like, I get caught off guard, and I'll look, and I'm like, damn, I didn't mean to do that. But that's gonna happen. So don't beat yourself up if you do that, because we're men. We just have that reaction. But don't make it a don't make it a repeated problem where, like, let's say you look at a girl and then you keep looking and you keep looking and you keep looking, like that's where it becomes a problem. And honestly, I've always said, like, if you're gonna do that, you might as well talk to her. If you're gonna keep looking at her, just say, hey, I noticed you, what are you listening to? Or just like start a conversation, and you'll find out immediately if there's gonna be a connection there or not. So you might as well get that curiosity figured out if you keep looking. Otherwise, just fucking work out, man. Like, stop looking at her. Like, do what you're supposed to do there, and then, like, just focus on the weights. Um, but yeah, it's very hard, man. I I think the clothes are getting more and more revealing in the gym, and shorts are getting shorter. Uh, the shirts are getting. I literally saw this girl wear basically a bra. She just had like a bra on and like these like white short shorts that basically looked like she had nothing on. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, you literally look like you're naked just walking around. Now, obviously, she had a nice body, so she was like trying to show it off. But I'm just like thinking to myself, man, like, I just I just can't imagine someone like that being like the mother of my children. I don't know what it was, but I'm like, I don't look at that and think, yep, that's wifey type. Like, I think that's kind of like guys have that sixth sense where we're like, well, we know when the girl is, she's a little bit more traditional, or when she's actually like a girl to be with. Um, because everybody knows what kind of attention that grabs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting, and I think if you to tie it to a previous point, if you focus on discipline in sexuality, and like you're not hooking up with every girl that you see, you're not watching porn constantly, you spot that a lot easier, and you're not as drawn in, like, as the average guy would be, to just go talk to her, try to get her number. Um, I think you'll have a better sense of control when you don't do that stuff. Um, what would you say when it? Because I want to maybe segue this into approaching because I think that there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. Um, First of all, what's your stance on guys approaching women? It could be in the gym, it could be in the park, it could be anywhere. I know you said that you met your fiance that way. You made an approach in the gym. What's your take on that? Because I know some guys take it too far and they're like, approach every single girl they see. Some guys never approach women ever, and they're against it. What's your take on that?
Now I know what I wanted to say before that. I wanted to
Hmm.
say something, but it got off my mind. It was
Hmm.
actually about approaching because you said when a
Yeah.
guy looks at a woman continuously, he should approach her.
Yeah.
And when I was single, I actually had a rule that was when I look at the same woman twice, I have to
Yeah.
go approach her. Because
Yeah.
obviously, when you look at her twice or even more often,
Hmm.
this is your brain, your body signalizing you, okay, I want to go talk to her actually. I am somewhat
Yeah.
interested. What is that
Hmm.
interest? Is it
Hmm.
sexual interest? Is it genuine interest? Well,
Right.
perhaps you could say the first impulse is always sexual interest because that is how a man's sexuality is
Hmm.
wired. You know, we are visual creatures. So our first intention, like it or not, will be sexual.
Yep.
We're looking at a woman because we're physically attracted to her,
Hmm.
which makes us want to approach her.
Hmm.
So this is the first rule a man can imply. You know, look twice, gotta go approach.
Hmm.
Because if you don't do it, you're actually worsening it.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, when you look at her and when you don't approach for a reason. I mean, when you're in a relationship, you shouldn't look, right? Let's begin there.
Hmm.
If you're single
Hmm.
and you look more often, then you should approach. Because when you don't approach, you're not doing it because you're anxious, because you're afraid of rejection, because you're afraid you don't know what to say or whatever.
Hmm.
But you're not doing it because you're letting your fear rule over you.
Mm.
Because otherwise, you would just go over there and talk to her. And
Mhm.
to answer your question, I'm an approach guy. You know,
Mhm.
I know why you asked this question because some people, David, for example, says, okay, don't
Mm.
approach women. I fully get that perspective.
Yeah.
You will get approached by women. You know, it's not like, okay,
Oh,
women
yeah.
will never approach you. But
Mhm.
I do believe, like, I'm not a guy who likes to limit himself.
Mhm.
You know, like if I tell myself, okay, well, I'm focused on my mission anyways, you know, so I don't need to approach a girl. I don't need to.
Mhm.
But when I see a woman and I want to approach her, I feel that like it gives me that impulse, like it was with my fiance.
Mhm.
Why shouldn't I go and approach?
Yeah.
And you know, I've done it all. Go and I went cold approaching. I went on semen retention, and I've just done it with my intuition. You know, cold approaches
Mhm.
are fine, even going somewhere if you really struggle with it. Like I had
Mm.
severe social anxiety, and I tapered it. You know, I started going around just asking people for the time.
Mm.
Then I went around asking or starting a small talk conversation with people. And I
Mhm.
actually even said, because I felt like it was super awkward to start a conversation, I said, hey, look, I try to overcome that fear. That's why I have a conversation with strangers. How are you doing? And, you know, just had a small talk and continued on. Then I tapered it. Then I started just talking to girls, just making her a compliment and then leaving.
Mm.
And then
Mm.
small talk, taper it up again, then ask her for her number. So cold approaches do have their validity. Should you
Mhm.
go somewhere doing cold approaches because you want to get laid? No. Should you go somewhere to cold approaches because you struggled like me with severe social anxiety or because you really can't approach women? Yes,
Mhm.
because you have to harden yourself. You have to
Mm.
get to used to that rejection. You have to see that you don't die when you approach her.
Yep.
You do that with good intentions, not to get laid, not to get as many numbers as possible, because that is a useless activity.
Mhm.
And when you're comfortable with approaching women, just let your intuition guide you. Like it was for me, like I saw my fiance in the gym, and it was actually pretty much after I had my semen retention. Like I went on a 9 month semen retention because I wanted, like I told myself, okay, I'm gonna write this book now, and I will not date anyone until this book is finished. And it was a few weeks after that, and I saw her and I was like, hey, look, she looks kind of cute. It was in the gym. She was wearing an oversized t shirt, which is a green flag,
That is a green flag.
and I was like, yeah, okay, let's just approach her. And yeah, see, she's now my fiance. So that was technically a cold approach.
Mm,
So telling guys to don't cold approach or don't do this, don't do that is limiting them.
mm-hmm.
Anything can work. Your future wife could approach you. Your
Yeah.
future wife could be a cold approach. Your future wife could be somebody you know that knows somebody who knows somebody that has a friend
Mm-hmm.
who knows somebody.
Yep.
That could be your future wife too. So it
Mm-hmm.
can be anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And even Joe, Joe from we used to do the live streams
Mhm.
together. He met his wife doing something similar too. He was I don't know if he was at a bar or something, but he was with his friends and he was just making approaches just for fun. Like he was just enjoying himself. He didn't have an agenda. And I remember he told me the night that he met her, he just went around the venue and just started talking to everybody. And he was just having a good time. And he ended up seeing his wife standing on the street, I think by herself, and he walked up and said something to her. Now they have 3 kids, they're married, they're like, they're doing things, they're killing it together. But it's like that's the same mindset. Like you'd never know where that could lead you if you don't make the effort. And I'll even give my own example. I would argue, even in my own life, I might not even have a business if I didn't cold approach. And I'll give a very very this is a quick little story, but when I started this journey was because one of the reasons is because I was involved with this girl and it wasn't working out. And I had to learn a lot about relationships. I had to learn a lot about like masculine, feminine dynamics. I didn't know what purpose was. I didn't know what self improvement was. This is all very, very new to me. But when I met this girl, I met her at the gym. Very similar, just like you, met her in the gym. And I was introduced to her from her aunt. We were like in the sauna together, and I remember her aunt was like next to me, and I'm in there just sweating. I'm not really paying attention to anybody, and she says, "Oh my," I don't even know what she said to me, uh, but she said, I don't know what I don't really remember. That was years ago, but I was wearing this like cut off, so I was like my muscles were out. I was looking good. I was feeling good, and her aunt said something to me, and I told her where I went to college, and she was like, "Oh, my niece here goes to that same school." And I look back, and I'm like, "Wow, this girl's really attractive." And we just started talking, and she leaves, and then as soon as she leaves, there's another guy in the sauna that saw this entire thing happen. He was like, "Dude." He's like, if I was you, man, he said, I'd come back to this same spot in the gym every day at the same time to see if you could talk to her again. I was like, you know what? That's a good idea. Now, I was pretty desperate back then, so there was just a different mentality. But granted, I went back to the gym around the same time the next day, and she was in the gym same time. I was like, holy fuck, there she is. And very, very little experience approaching women. That was probably the first time I really ever did it. But I saw her again, and I was like, well, I have to say something because I just saw her yesterday. It's fresh. We just met each other, and I've never seen her before that. She was like the first time I saw her, and I remember I like positioned. I was such a such a weirdo. I positioned myself at this like ab machine that was like the one where you're like holding it on the sides and you can do like leg raises, and it was like right in front of the weight room, and she was like walking this way. So I just so happened to position myself on that machine as she's walking towards me. So I'm like, well, she has to pass me. And then I was like, hey, didn't I meet you yesterday? What's your name? Blah, blah, blah. And we started talking. And I got her phone number right there. And little did I know at the time, that would be the girl that basically like was my first serious type of relationship. It wasn't even really a relationship. It was like we were just more serious than any girl that I've ever been before her. And essentially, like, a lot of that experience I used to create this brand. So if I didn't approach her, I don't even know where I'd be right now. I don't know if I'd have this business. I mean, I probably would eventually, but I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing right now with this business and this brand and be on this journey as early as I was. So you just never know. Like, even if it leads to heartbreak, that's the thing that guys, I think, need to pay attention to as well. Even if it leads to a heartbreak, or you get broken up with, or she breaks up with you, you break up with her, it doesn't work out. Even if that's the case, you gain so much from those experiences and you grow so much as a person that in the end it's all worth it. And I think yeah, I just think not even just approaching women, but approaching anybody, like just being a social person, is a freaking superpower, especially in today's world. Like, nobody does that anymore. Like, you'll literally never, I don't see one person approaching strangers on the street or just anywhere they are. That just doesn't happen.
In Austria, it's crazy, man. In Austria, I'm a very talkative guy. I
Hmm.
Now I am. As I said,
Yeah.
I was extremely socially anxious, and I'm actually still an
Hmm.
introvert. But
Hmm.
I just think it's strange. For example, my fiance, we're not living together yet. She lives in a building that has eight. What is it called in English? Eight rooms, levels. What
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it? The right word?
like
Eight levels.
like levels. What's the word? I know the word. I'm forgetting it. Floors.
Yeah, floors. Eight
Yeah, eight
floors.
floors. Hmm.
And obviously you have an elevator there. And
Hmm.
when I go there in the elevator, and somebody, she's on the seventh floor, and somebody
Hmm.
goes to the eighth, and you are in there several seconds. Perhaps you say hello and bye, and that's it. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
isn't that fucking crazy? You're there and you don't talk anything, and it's just super awkward.
Hmm.
And like in Vienna, it's extreme. If you go in the grocery store and you greet somebody there, you often just get a disgusted look. It's like people don't want to talk here, right?
That's nuts.
But it's really crazy how antisocial we've
Yeah.
become actually. Or if you're in public transport,
Hmm.
I have the urge to just go to talking to people, man. I don't want to sit on my phone like a weirdo, like half an hour
Yeah.
if I can just talk to people. And the thing is, you don't know what happens if you're
Hmm.
if you're there on your phone. You're encapsulating. Is that the right word? The world
Hmm.
around you. You don't know who is around you. You don't
Yeah.
have the possibility to gain a new experience.
Hmm.
You're living in your own world. Whereas when you go talk to people, when you make it a habit, you don't know which people are waiting for you.
Hmm.
You could meet your next business partner. You could meet your wife. You could meet
Yeah.
your next best friend. You could just meet good contacts in general. Like,
Yep.
you guys have to understand, because I'm so passionate about this, because I died internally when I had to talk to people.
Hmm.
But it's a superpower, like you said.
Yeah.
You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know what you are robbing yourself of if you don't talk to people.
Hmm.
Networking as a businessman is non-negotiable.
Yep.
You like, even for example, in public transport. I drive to work with public transport because I live in the city, and it's actually quicker than with car, with all the traffic and so on.
Hmm.
And you do that daily, twice. You drive to work, you drive home. You have so much chance to go and meet new people.
Yep.
And then people ask me, men, especially men, where can I meet women? Well, have you started opening your eyes?
Yeah.
Just go talk to people.
Hmm. It's so true, dude. I've had so many experiences like that where maybe, like, I like to travel a lot. So if I'm on the plane or if I'm flying somewhere, talk to the person you sit next to. I mean, you'd be so surprised how open people are if you just start being a genuine person and you ask them questions like, "Hey, where you heading? How long you been doing that? You seeing family? Is it business? Like, Tell me about it. And that you'd be shocked how open people are to just tell you about themselves and tell you about their lives. I've had people tell me, strangers, complete strangers, tell me the most deep, intimate secrets of their lives. And I just met them like a minute ago. Like things that they probably don't tell their family. And they're telling me. It's crazy what can happen when you just start to take the initiative and start that conversation. Um, I try to do that anywhere I go. Even like if I'm I'm buying clothes, or I'm at a restaurant or something, and somebody's checking me out. Like the someone at the register is checking out my order or my clothes. I'll just ask them like, "Hey, how's your day going?" Sometimes you get people that are like, "Oh, it's okay," and then they just check you out. They don't really care. But then sometimes you get people that are like, "Oh, well, let me tell you, I just found I ran into a long lost friend. We started reconnecting. Blah blah blah." They'll just go on and on, but you just don't know what could happen from that. I mean, you could have a great conversation that leads to something. You could have nothing. But the idea is you want to give yourself the opportunity to even have that. Because if you don't say anything, you won't even get that opportunity. So yeah, it's a game changer, man. It truly is. Just being a guy that approaches everybody, not just solely just focuses on women, but just talking to everybody, being that guy who knows how to network, who knows how to socialize, because it's true. Like it's one of those skill sets that you're always going to get a return on because you're investing into other people. So I will always be an advocate of social being a socializing guy and networking and just making connections, man. It's so undervalued.
Absolutely. And the best example is like I can give you a personal example, but also, for example, a story from Tate. I believe it
Hmm.
was not Andrew Tate, but Tristan. Not sure if you
Hmm.
know the video, but he was essentially saying he had a date with a girl in a restaurant, and she was joking why he didn't buy her flowers or something like that, and the waiter
I
heard
think I
that
heard that. Yeah.
and brought him flowers, right? And this is the
Hmm.
power of networking. Or in
Yep.
my case, we have, what is the word in English? Let me quickly Google it. I don't know the translation. Is it postpod? Is this the right one? Postman. The
Oh,
postman.
yeah, yeah.
And we have the problem is in Austria they often don't get you your package, and you have to go
Mm.
to a spot where they're collected and get it
Huh.
yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm a guy. I do give a lot of missing the word again, man. I'm barely using tips. Tips is the right word. So I'm a guy. I do give high tips,
Uh-huh.
and now my postman always comes every time
Hmm.
and brings me
Yep.
that package. And
Hmm.
on the other hand, I know, like, because my parents never did that, they always had to get that package.
Mm.
And the same with where I work at the company. Me and the other guy who worked there were good with networking, right? We're good salesmen. We work as salesmen. And so we know how to connect with people. And we just recently changed location, and we immediately befriended everybody around us. And
Mm.
now you get important information. Now you get a free coffee from
Yep.
Starbucks, or not Starbucks, in our case it's KFC. But
Hmm.
those are the little things. You get
Hmm.
handouts, you get important information. People, when you connect with people, you get benefits.
Yep.
And you, of course, you give benefits too. It's not like just that you're giving. But if you
Hmm.
don't do this, you're simply missing out on opportunities. Sometimes you need a handout,
Mm.
and that person will gladly help you because, simply because you've been nice to him.
Yep. Hmm. I'm actually glad you brought that up as the last part of your point there, because that is super accurate, because you have to be someone of value to even get anything From like for someone to offer you value, you have to offer value first. So, and this is the thing where I think some guys might be confused, like, well, I need to be somebody, I need to be successful. You really don't. You literally can give value by simply just listening and being curious about what this person has to say. That's giving value. If you're genuinely curious, you're kind, you're attentive to what they're saying, you're giving value. And they could literally give you, I mean, not that you're going into the interaction expecting something to come out of it, but you're genuinely there to just meet somebody and just give this person value. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to give you something in return. It always happens that way, especially if there's someone who's worthwhile, they're worth talking to. I've met, so I'll give another quick story. I've met one of my coaches through being in a networking event. I went to this like little mixer on this it's basically like a steamboat that we have in our city here in Pittsburgh, and it was like a chamber of commerce event. And me and my brother went. It was like a business network, and there's a bunch of cool people there. There was these two girls there that one of them was a photographer, the other one was I forget, she was like real estate or something like that. And they ended up talking to us. And the girl, we ended up hitting it off right away. She ends up doing some work for me in the future. She ends up taking some photos of me, getting a couple photo shoots together. Her friend actually was a life coach. Actually, he was a life coach and like a discipline coach. And I was like, that's interesting. She's like, you guys probably hit it off. Now we linked up like a year later, and he ended up being my coach for like 8 months and really helped me out with like discipline, business structure, and all this stuff. But I never would have met him had I not put myself in that environment to even to be there. So it's one of those things that if you just do the minimum, you just do the bare minimum, like saying hello or starting a conversation with a person that gets you coffee every morning, or saying hello to your mailman that walks by and just asking him how his day is going, or going to the gym and asking somebody to spot you and then starting a conversation from then, like asking him what are his interests, etc. It just takes the small effort and you get so much out of it. And yeah, I just think it's such a powerful thing for men to have in their arsenal, is just social skills. 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, just think about it. How are you going to be a businessman
Yeah,
without social skills? You could
it's
say,
true.
okay, I'm a content creator. You can solo write as a content creator, but
Hmm.
the problem is, what are you going to create content on? Like,
Yeah.
okay, certainly not in this niche, because you can't be socially awkward and a content creator. You can be a
Yeah.
content creator in mathematics or whatever. Sure, there's a niche for that, or programming, where you
Yeah.
don't need so many social skills.
Hmm.
But I don't know a successful businessman who has no social skills. Because
Yeah.
how, like we live in times of the internet. Okay, we can create content, we
Hmm.
can engage with other people over the internet, or we can choose not to, and still people will have some significant success. But
Hmm.
let's look at the real world. The entire world around you is built by men.
Yep.
Everything is man-made.
Hmm.
And this is impossible without social skills. Like, for example, the company that I am making right now, not Holistic Manhood, but the one in bodybuilding,
Hmm.
this is more of an offline thing.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, we're creating content because, traffic and all of that. But everything behind the curtain is happening in real life, because we're
Hmm.
producing
Yep.
products. And without social skills, you will never create a company like this that is successful.
Hmm.
Let's take it a step further. Okay, you can be a content creator, but by working on yourself, because you don't develop any social skills, you're limiting your success, because you can only work so much.
Mm.
You can only create so much content: newsletter, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. You can only cut so many videos.
Hmm.
So if you want to really scale your business, even as a content creator at some point, you'll need some social skills, because you will have people working for you.
Yep.
if you want to scale it. Obviously you can say, okay, I'm happy with making 2, 3, 4, maybe 5K per month, which is decent money. But
Sure.
if you want to really make a lot of money, there's no way around social skills.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I agree. Especially if you're business minded, social skills is literally like the only way you're gonna build your business to where, like, if you want to be a millionaire, you want to be a very, very successful business person and have multiple businesses even, you need social skills. Like, there's just no way around it. Like, even guys like, I mean, even stuff like this technology we're using right now, like the internet, computer. Like, you think Steve Jobs didn't hire employees to work under him and to help him create the iPhone, like help him create his company Apple? Like, we wouldn't have anything like that if we didn't have people who knew how to work with others or how to connect. So I agree, man. Like, you're not always going to be a one man show. Like, it does require you to put yourself out there and just to meet people, even if it's just very casually. Like, you just never know where that could take you, and what that opportunity could bring. So I fully agree, man. Um, I think we covered a lot, bro. I think we really hit a lot when it comes to like social skills, relationships, marriage. We talked about sexual dynamics, even just other business related things we mentioned recently. So that was a really, really, I think, value filled podcast. And if anybody's watching this, even you get to this point in the video, I hope you took notes, because man, there's a lot that we talked about that you're going to want to start applying and go back on. Um, is there anything that you wanted to say to close it out, or maybe just tell people where to find you if you want to see more of your content?
I mean, I do believe we could continue another 1.5 hours
Oh,
if we wanted to.
easily,
There's
easily
enough
could.
to talk about. And I know for people listening this, we know that those interviews go wild, especially with the structure. I do believe me and Tino are the same in this point. We just like to develop it naturally. And that is why
Hmm.
we start here and end up over there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is very valuable, and yes, it is.
Hmm.
I mean, 1.5 hours is extremely long nowadays, with
Hmm.
people attention span being a few seconds.
Yeah.
But if you've come so far, congratulations, and continue to watch the content. Even I, who is extremely busy, like if I go to work, if I drive to work, I'll plug in a podcast and listen to
Hmm.
it.
Yep.
That is how you can digest something like this. Like, I'm not gonna sit down 1.5 hours and watch the video.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it by I put it aside and do something, like
Hmm.
driving to work, or maybe work that doesn't need a lot of cognitive
Yeah.
performance, like cooking or something like that, where I just
Hmm.
can listen to it.
Yep.
So that's how you can listen to such long content. But
Hmm.
besides that, I do believe we talked enough. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You can find me under Holistic Manhood pretty much anywhere. YouTube as well. I just started again with YouTube.
Hmm.
I did have YouTube, but then I stopped for a few months. Now I'm back at it again. I'm actually uploading a video right now or today. So check it out, guys. Holistic Manhood everywhere: Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. That being said, I want to give the last words to Tino.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and if you guys want to see his stuff, his links will be down below. I'll leave a quick little thing in the description if you want to check it out. But yeah, again, I do think that this style of podcast is stuff that I generally like to do. I'm very much a free flow content creator. I kind of just let things happen naturally. I usually don't script. I literally just hit record and I'm like, all right, let's go. Uh, Now that could be a bad thing. That could be a good thing. It's just kind of always been the way I've done it. But yeah, guys, if you really take the things that we say in this podcast and apply them, they will make a difference. Like, we're not just talking from theory. This is all experience that we have. You've heard Manuel's story about, him getting married, how he met his fiance, the businesses he's building, the mindset that he has. It all comes from experience. And same with me. Like, my experiences, that's how I'm able to speak on these things confidently. That's how I'm able to speak on these things with wisdom and with perspective, because I've seen other things that are out there, and I've done a lot in the last 5 years. So it's only going to come with time. And if you're not there right now, that's fine. You don't have to be. You just have to be willing to put in the work and willing to work on yourself to get to the point where you feel, hey man, I got skills, I got a good mindset, I got things that I'm building, and I'm on my way. So when you get to that point, you're golden. So don't be discouraged if you're not as far as me or Manuel. We've been in this for a long time, so don't compare yourself. Just focus on what's right in front of you, and just do that, man. Um, that's pretty much all I got to say. I know I've been talking my ass off for the last 90 minutes. So I'll probably just end it there. If you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I got new podcast guests coming pretty much every week. I want to get at least one of these a week. Even if it's repeat guests, I think it's super valuable to just have continued conversations, especially in this space. So if you want to check out my stuff, my links are down below. If you want to work with me personally, I have my links for that as well down below. And that's pretty much it, guys. We're going to get going and continue having a awesome day. Probably do this again in the future, I'm sure.
Certainly, man.
Absolutely. Well, all right, guys. Appreciate y'all watching this far. If you made it, make sure you do all that YouTube stuff I just mentioned. Have an awesome one. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.